Hello, hello. So today we have the new film from Norwegian director Christopher Borgli, the writer director of Dream Scenario with Nicolas Cage, which, if you have not seen that, by the way, I recommend it. It's very interesting. But for this right here, for the drama, we have Zendaya and Robert Pattinson. Respectively, they play Emma and Charlie. So they are a couple who are set to get married in a few weeks. And during a night out with some friends, they're drinking, laughing, having fun, and they decide to play a little casual game called What's the Worst Thing You've Ever Done? And they're going in a circle, they're drinking it up, they're telling their secrets, embarrassment, this and that, whatever. And then it gets to Zendaya. She tells her secret. She tells the worst thing she's done, and the whole room freezes. The range of reactions she gets, it ranges from genuine disgust to speechlessness to disbelief. Even she herself is pretty shocked to hear her, like speak these things from her past into existence. Like it disturbs her essentially. And if the title gives you any clue, it is about Charlie trying to contend with this information, because this is nothing light. This is big. This is a big deal. So one of those where it's like, I wish you told me way before we even became a thing. Now it's like, I'm getting married to you in a few weeks. What do I do with this? Like, what do I say to people about this? If I want to say something sweet to you, if I want to be nice to you, if I want to like genuinely like share how much you mean to me, how can I do these things without thinking of that? It's going to taint the way that I feel about you. And yeah, the drama that comes from dealing with such sudden, heavy information, it's a ride, especially since Charlie is kind of awkward. Can I say neurotic? Yeah, he's a neurotic guy who's just not able to handle something like this with grace. Now, to be fair, the thing that Zendaya reveals, nobody can deal with this easily. I'm going to make that known right now, but somebody like him, especially, he does not have the backbone, the capacity, the patience. Like he lacks all of it. So he's at a literal disadvantage. And when you have somebody like that and you put them in a sensitive time frame to figure out how to contend with this information, it gets very messy. And there's a lot of drama that goes into making peace with that information. Now, that's the hook of the film. It's a very, very strong hook. But what I find like most interesting, it's not, hey, what is Charlie going to do with this information? For me, it went beyond that. It's, what are people supposed to do with this information? And to me, that's where the core of the film lies, because look, the thing that Emma shares, right? It's very sensitive. It's highly contentious, very controversial, right? But at the same time, the movie never judges her for it. The movie doesn't scrutinize her. If anything, like it actually like humanizes her perspective. It tells you how she got to that point, how the thing became a thing, how she learned from it, how she shut that door, and how her core essentially became solid. Now, it gives you this human point of view, but at the same time, if you were the one who were to hear that so suddenly about somebody you knew or thought you knew, right? It's not unreasonable that you're going to reassess the person, But even then, still, the way that the people around her reassess her and how they approach this new piece of information that they're learning about her, this is something where it says way more about them than it does about her, because once again, she's gone through it. She's done that part of her life. It's done. Nothing more to ponder, really. But for everybody else, this is new. They've never like dealt with information like this before. Nothing so close. So you're really learning more about how they handle these things more than anything about Emma, really. I mean, during the game of what's the worst thing you've ever done, funny enough, in a weird way, the friend admits something that, if you think about it, it's a little bit worse than Emma's. Now, for people who have seen the film, I'm not trying to downplay Emma's thing. Okay, like we know which one is the more grave and severe situation, but for argument's sake, it's funny that this friend had the harshest reaction and cast the harshest judgment towards Emma, when the thing that they had done sort of materialized and actually wound up hurting somebody to such a degree where it could have gotten pretty serious. Now, this person is able to just kind of like, brush what they did to the side and just live with it, and just all because like, hey, it all worked out. But also, if it didn't work out, if it escalated, then I just would have done this. And it's like, well, yeah, it's easy for you to say that because the thing never came to a head. You didn't really have to deal with the heavy sort of kind of like component to this situation. You didn't really have to go through any sort of like character development or any kind of like, like hard journey with the sort of thing. Like Emma did. Emma really had to face some ugly things about herself. So yeah, but here you are casting the harshest judgment. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to linger on the friend for so long, but it's also interesting because the friend comes off as somebody who likes stirring the pot. So the dynamic is interesting when you have this friend who is insistent on getting you to share this part of yourself just to react so harshly. Not that it's necessarily completely unjustified, but something about it feels kind of just leaves a bad taste in your mouth. Now, aside from the grace and humanity it takes to understand somebody who went through something that led to them developing more grace and humanity for other people, another interesting component of this film is Charlie and how this whole thing completely wrecks him from the inside out. Actually, like the more that I'm talking, the more that I'm realizing, like I'm seeing some connections between this and Phantom Thread, where you have a film about two highly distinct flavors of people coming together, developing a romance. It's budding, but they're discovering this through a pretty dark process. Like, to be frank, through some pretty fucked up means. But it's that darkness that brings them closer together. And that's not to say that the drama is going toe to toe with Phantom Thread in terms of the demented aspect of the characters and what creates their bond or what fuels it, but more so just the idea where it's like it's not necessarily all cute things and peachy keen sort of qualities that bolster like a tight bond, but rather some really ugly shit can also do the job too. It's an interesting examination of that sort of thing, and it's even better because this film has some really wry, sardonic, dark, comedic sensibilities, and they make the experience even better. I mean, this is some of the best low-hanging fruit I've seen a film take in a while because it's so ripe with this. Like, it's one of those where it's like, how could you not? Zendaya's secret, it lends itself to all of these visual gags, audio gags, all of these puns. Like, it is ripe with it, but it's not overly done to the point of being obnoxious. It is the best balance, and it perfectly ties into the breakdown of Pattinson's character as he tries to reckon with this. It is fantastic. And I don't know how accurate it is to say this, but I can't help but to feel that deep down in my gut that if Yorgos Lanthimos were more immature, not quite as dark, and a little bit less abstract, like I feel like his dark, morbid sense of humor would mirror what we see in the drama. Not even necessarily in just the humor, but also in the social commentary, the way how this film uses certain societal challenges as a springboard to explore some of these characters. To me, it feels pretty Lanthimos coded. Not that he's this overt social commentator. I mean, it's definitely in his films without a doubt, but I feel like this film is more direct compared to Lanthimos' effort. So I don't want to say, it's beat for beat the same, but I feel like there's a lot of Lanthimos light coding in this film. So if you're into that sort of thing, go for it. And I think it's even more of a sell because, like, if you are friends with people who can't handle somebody as dark and morbid as Lanthimos, I feel like the drama is sort of a more balanced sort of showcase of somebody like him on display. Sort of like baby's first steps into dark, straight-faced presenting awkward comedy if they're not used to that sort of thing. Sorry, I got way off track. No, what I was saying was like it's what another interesting component of the film is how we see this thing of Emma's completely wreck Charlie from the inside out. And I'm saying this because, once again, we're getting more of an examination piece on the other people who have done things that are not as bad compared to Emma, but we are seeing how this thing affects them. And this is one of those cases where it's like, oh, Charlie, okay, you might not have done anything as bad, but you're about to learn a lot about yourself today, motherfucker. Like this turns into a serious, like a real eye-opening journey of self-discovery for Charlie. I'll leave it at that. I also wanted to expand on something I brought up earlier, where even though Charlie is the driving force for the film, how the broader exploration isn't just him, but also just the varying degrees certain bits of information can land with certain people. What I find interesting in that regard is how the movie explores this not just through character, but it also expresses it through the editing. And I wrote down 4 instances of this where like there are some parts where something is happening and the scene cuts mid-action when when there's a bit of an emotional spike and you never really get the context for why that happened. You're kind of just left to really like ponder and discern for yourself what had gone on. Or there are some other situations where you see something that they see, but there's really no follow-up and you're just as confused as them, but you kind of watch them sort of just jump to like a certain conclusion themselves. And, you know, it's a matter of like, okay, well, you know, was that reasonable? Was that not reasonable? And there are also instances where in the midst of going through this drama of making peace with this newly discovered thing about Emma, there are some moments where like it can be easily interpreted as like the characters are in their heads thinking about the worst case scenarios that could come from the unveiling of this information and how it could come back and hurt them. But you're never really sure if it's just them sort of like indulging in some of the worst parts of this situation, or if it's actually happening. Like the film, it plays with your ability to discern what's real and what's not in the wake of all of this insanity. And it elevates the level of what the hell is going on? What do I do with this? Like what does supplemental context mean when it comes to clearing up your story or giving yourself an alibi or trying to make yourself understood or trying to understand people? Like, what does all of this mean? Like, what does it amount to? Like, is it better to just shut the fuck up and let people just remain aloof and be none the wiser and let them just stay shrouded in mystery? Or is it better to just lay the cards down, lay down the facts, like make things as objective as possible, but, you know, risk the chaotic fallout that would come from it just in the name of truth? And I'm sure a lot of people are going to be stuck in that frame of mind because everybody's got a secret that they've, you know, that they're for their own sake or for the sake of other people that they just keep to themselves because, you know, it might unleash some hell or it just might be painful. So it's very interesting to think about how this film would land with certain people. But beyond that, I would say the actual experience itself, it was fun just seeing how everything was just going to crescendo and how it would all end and how it just sort of just like broke Charlie's psyche. It was an insane ride. It was fun. It was funny. I had a good time. And I think it's something where it actually will spark some pretty interesting conversation amongst people. God forbid the conversations that couples might have from this, you know, maybe hopefully like anybody who decides to learn more about their partner after seeing this will not deal with something that's as damning and severe as what goes on here. But then again, maybe some couples will get even closer because of it. So, you know, it's a coin toss. But having said all of that, I wanted to give a shout out to all of the performances. Zendaya did great. Robert Pattinson did great, as did Alana Haim and Mamadou Ache. It's crazy how Alana Haim is really hitting the scene, like starring in so many different films. I mean, it's the Paul Thomas Anderson effect. It's like once you're in one of his films, your career just explodes. But there's that. Robert Pattinson, it's crazy to fathom how much range he has. Like this whole time, I'm just thinking like, wow, this is the guy who played Connie in Good Time. And the kind of guy he's playing in the drama, they are polar opposites. It's crazy. I get hats off to him and his performance. Mamadou Ache, I'm not really familiar with a lot of what he's done, but I liked what I saw, and I'm looking forward to seeing more of him. Zendaya, now, I found this the most interesting with her because normally I'm not really swayed by a lot of her performances. I mean, like, and again, it's not because she's a bad actress. Like, she's fantastic, you know, but I think if I really think about it, and this is completely unfair, this is very irrational on my part, I can admit that. I think it comes from some held resentment I have towards Euphoria, and it's no fault of hers whatsoever. Like, she is phenomenal in that show. But in my opinion, that show is awful. And I think the like misery porn that show like positions itself to be, I think it takes her character and like she's cranked up at 10 like through the whole thing, and it just rubbed off on me negatively after a while. And yes, I know it's because her character in the show has a lot of trauma. She's a drug addict. Like, I'm aware, yes. But Sam Levinson's direction for everybody in that show, including her, obviously, it just did not work for me. And I just, for some reason, cannot shake that show from, seeing her in other things when she's doing different things, Also, like, Malcolm and Marie, I wasn't really crazy about, and she was really good in Challengers, but, it wasn't such a different role that I was like able to just like see her in a new light. But this one right here, even though she's not necessarily like going in a completely different direction emotionally compared to what she's done before, I was able to buy into her character more here. Like on this one, she's less like, outward and, screaming at the top of her lungs every 5 seconds like in Euphoria. Like for this one right here, she's trying to hold herself together. Like she's on the fringe of completely falling apart because of the fallout of this information that she decided to share. But she's also weirdly still like the bigger person in this whole thing. Like she's completely understanding as to why people are freaking out the way that they are. The way that she kind of like managed to kind of hang in the middle of these two conflicting things, like I thought she did great. Like I was able to buy into it with no issue whatsoever. One random thing I will complain about though, and this is more in relation to the casting, the actress that they got to play younger Emma, like I don't think she and Zendaya look alike at all. It was pretty noticeable every time she came on screen, and I'm just like, what? I mean, that's really it. I mean, performance-wise, that actress, she did okay. I mean, she's young. She's still got time to learn. But yeah, that just threw me off every time I saw her. I was like, yeah, they don't look the same at all. But yeah, I highly recommend this. If you want to see something that's on the darker, awkward side, like if you want to show like your not super film buffy friends and family something that's a bit more on the unique side as far as like dark, sardonic kind of like comedies go, show them this. Like this will definitely get some interesting conversation going, and it's not so abstract where it'll leave people, befuddled and confused. Like it'll get a dialogue going, like for sure. I mean, that's probably why the film apparently has mixed reception. At least that's what I've heard. I mean, I look at the scores, and the scores for the most part are positive. I mean, Metacritic seems mixed, but when you look at it, it still looks like there's more positivity going on there than anything else. But I mean, at the same time, I'm not totally surprised. I mean, we're kind of at a point where like this is still, you'll see what I mean. It is a sensitive topic, so perhaps like we need a little bit more time before we can just freely like explore that sort of thing. But this is the first that will lead the way to that for many to come. Not saying that this is the first to have ever done it, but to approach it from this angle, I would say I can't really think of any other movie that's done that. So, I mean, if you can think of one, please let me know. Correct me if I'm wrong. But yeah, solid 8 out of 10. I enjoyed it. I would recommend it. Go see it.